What's up, everybody? Justin here with a new Who's Better show, a new Who's Better episode between Eric Bischoff, the former vice president, the guy that ran WCW during their most successful period. Eric Bischoff versus, in this episode of Who's Better, Eric Bischoff versus Paul Heyman, who ran ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling, took over as a booker of ECW in, I believe, October 93. And really, Paul Heyman did great things as a booker and head of ECW. So I'm going to debate for both Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff. I'm going to not argue, what am I going to argue with myself? I'm going to basically argue for both guys because obviously they're not here. I wish they were here on my channel, but they're never going to be. As a wrestling fan, in my opinion, I will debate and argue for both sides, for Bischoff and for Paul Heyman. The good and the bad that they both did for wrestling and did in their companies. So up first, I'm going to talk about Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman, the guy, in my opinion, was a creative genius, a hell of a booker, just a great mind, especially in the 90s. Paul Heyman was a genius. I don't know if he is anymore because he doesn't run a company. So how would I know that? He is still, Paul Heyman is very good at cutting promos, very good. So this is some of the bad that Paul Heyman did during his time as the booker, owner of ECW. I'm not talking about Bischoff as a character either, or Paul Heyman as a manager or character. This Who's Better is based on them running WCW and ECW. So this is some of the bad that Paul Heyman did during his time. Some of the really bad, the guy bounced a lot of checks to wrestlers that busted their ass for him. That straight up busted their ass, put their bodies through hell. A lot of guys probably barely get paid. If they were paid, it was not that much. If they were given a check for a good amount, a lot of times it bounced. I think only a few guys, the check never bounced on them. I don't think a check ever bounced on Rob Van Dam, but maybe it did at one point. I'm not sure. And maybe some other guy, I don't know about Bam Bam Bigelow. He might have had problems getting paid. That's why he left in November 98 to go to WCW and get guaranteed money. So just some of the really bad that Paul Heyman has done when he was in ECW and he was the owner. The guy bounced checks to his talent. It's kind of laughable now and kind of funny, but at the time, to the talent, I'm sure it was not funny. It's pretty damn ridiculous that he actually did that and bounced checks to talent. I don't know if Paul Heyman thought when he wrote the checks, they're not going to see this money, and that he didn't care, or that he's lying to them, or maybe thought somehow he's going to get money back to put in his bank. I don't know. But as an owner of a wrestling company, that is so wrong. to just have checks bounce on your talent that's busting their ass. That is so wrong. He bounced a lot of checks to guys like Lance Storm. Had a check bounce on him once, and he told Paul, he said, that's one strike, or maybe he had two strikes on two bounce checks. And Lance Storm told Paul, if you do that again, if I get another check bounced on me, I am terminating the contract and agreement. So he never bounced a check again, I don't think, to Lance Storm. He got paid after that. Bounced check. Bounced checks to guys like New Jack and probably a lot of other guys. Spike Dudley at one point was only getting paid like $75. And that guy was killing himself. So Shane Douglas had a big fight with Paul Heyman over money and not being paid and bounced checks. Shane said Paul at one point, I heard this from a Shane Douglas interview, like going back to like 2003 shoot interview. Shane Douglas said Paul Heyman at one point owed him so much money that he knew he was never going to get it. He owed him like 40 to 70,000 in back pay. And Heyman kept telling Shane Douglas, you're going to get it. You're going to get the money. And, well, Shane Douglas just basically said, fuck you, I'm quitting. And Shane Douglas left ECW. The guy was a top guy. He had to leave ECW because he was not going to be paid everything he owed. Or everything that was owed to him. He was never going to be paid that money. So Shane Douglas left at before Hardcore Heaven 99 pay-per-view. He decided to leave. Good for him because the guy probably wasn't paid for a couple months. Maybe 6 months. I don't know. But then they explained, I believe on the Hardcore Heaven pay-per-view, that Shane Douglas was gone. And they kind of buried him. They said he's gone. He no longer wanted to do business in ECW because, I don't know, something like Just Incredible ran him out of town or something. I don't know. But I kind of believe Shane Douglas more than Paul Heyman. Shane Douglas left again because the guy probably had a ton of bounce checks given to him by Paul Heyman. That was really bad. So Paul Heyman also, the guy lied to a lot of his talent. He lied to them. Not to everybody, but he lied to a lot of talent, but he never lied to the fans. He just lied to a lot of the talent. That was not cool. That was really bad, Paul Heyman. Also, this was another really bad thing about when Paul Heyman was in ECW and running it. The guy was overworked. The guy was burnt out. The guy tried to do everything by himself. He didn't try to manage all the money. He might have, but the guy was not good at running a company. At the money side, he was not good at that. I know he let guys like Tommy Dreamer get all the merchandise money and walk out of the arenas with like $70,000. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. But obviously, I mean, just look at how Paul Heyman looked in 99 and 2000. The guy looked like a mess. The guy looked run down, overworked, tired as hell, and burnt out. And the guy just, all Paul Heyman had to do was hire somebody else. Or hire two other people to run the money side of the company, the money management. The guy was awful at running his company money-wise. They were drawing good crowds and sellouts. Where'd all that goddamn money go? I don't know. So he was just really overtired, burnt out, and the guy was not good at managing a wrestling company with all the money coming in. Seemed like he didn't know what the hell he's doing. Maybe old people or gave up all that money. I don't know. Maybe owed it to people. Or he gave all that money they made. Instead of putting it into ECW, maybe he's paying off lawyers. Or trying to give his parents some money because they basically went broke from helping Paul Heyman put money into ECW. Also, ECW was sued a lot. I think Paul Heyman's father is a lawyer, I think. So ECW was sued a ton for incidents that happened in their company. Which was just, I remember one time in 95, Terry Funk set a towel on fire on a chair. Or Cactus Jack did it. And they tried to hit each other with a flaming towel. And it flew off. It flies in the air into the crowd. Right there, that's a lawsuit. They got sued for that. So maybe Paul Heyman put all the money ECW made back into lawyers to fight cases against ECW. I don't know. But I know they were sued a lot. So, what else bad did he do? Again, you had sellouts before ECW went out of business and went bankrupt. You had sellouts of the Hammerstein Ballroom, sellouts of their pay-per-views in October, November, December, January. Where'd that money go? I don't know. Because obviously ECW is selling out and probably making good money and selling a lot of merchandise. Where the hell did all the money go? So, again, just some bad stuff Paul Heyman did. Obviously, the baddest and the worst, and I'm still angry that ECW's out of business. I'm still mad about it. They had to go bankrupt. They went out of business. What the fuck, Paul Heyman? You shouldn't have went under. ECW should have never went under. They had a great fan base. If they could have kept going, I'm sure they would have got more fans and grew the audience. We would have had to change the style from less hardcore and less chair shots and less flaming tables, stuff like that. But in 99, 2000, there wasn't that much blood or violence. I didn't think so. The most violent year ECW did was definitely in 95. So anyways, another bad thing about Paul Heyman is 96, was a product too violent. Probably. Not for me as a fan, but it was probably a too violent product. And it was just too violent. We couldn't get any new fans, really, unless they loved what they saw in ECW. And did Paul Heyman and ECW go too far? Probably. In 96, 97, they did go far. I wasn't offended by it, but I'm sure a lot of wrestling fans were. 96, they crucified the Sandman. Put him up on a cross. They had barbed wire wrapped around his head. And that was not a good idea. I think it was a Raven idea to do that, and Paul Heyman just agreed. But then Raven, that was stupid, I thought. They had Raven go out to the ring and apologize. Come on. I mean, I guess you have to apologize for crucifying someone, but that was stupid. I'm apologizing, in my opinion. So in 96, they did the crucifixion of the Sandman. In 97, they also kind of went far in a barbed wire match with Terry Funk and Sabu. Got caught in barbed wire. They were like trapped cow animals, trapped in barbed wire. They couldn't get the barbed wire removed. Could have took out one of their eyes, could have ripped off their ears, stuff like that. It was pretty scary, to be honest, watching that match. I didn't watch it live, but I've seen it a couple of times from ECW home video releases and stuff like DVDs, stuff like that. And that barbed wire match kind of did push the limits and go too far because Sabu, before they got caught up in barbed wire, Sabu ripped his bicep open and needed 100 stitches. The guy, obviously, you could tell a spot in the match where he, I don't know why he did this, but he jumped off a chair, I believe, and tried to dive into Terry Funk. Terry Funk moved. Instead, Sabu got his arm cut open, bicep cut open by the barbed wire because he was stupid to do that. But it happened. The guy then, obviously, he was holding his arm in the match and yelling and screaming. And then Bill Alfonso just, I guess Sabu asked for athletic tape that they taped their wrists with. Taped his bicep up and crazy glued it closed. That's hardcore. And don't do that. If you get a deep cut, a really bad cut, do not put crazy glue or super glue in it. That's not smart. Go to the damn emergency room. And I think Sabu did have to go to the emergency room after the match, and the guy had 100 stitches. So in 96 and 97, they did go too far. That was kind of not good. That was a bad part about ECW. Or a bad part of Paul Heyman being in power. Let's see if I have any more bad to say about Paul Heyman. Or what happened under Paul Heyman. So no more bad. Let's get to the good. A lot of the good that Paul Heyman did when he was running ECW. This is a lot of the good. The product felt different. When I first saw ECW in May of 21 years ago. It's almost June, so 21 years ago, May 1998, I was a teenager. I was 14 years old at the time. So yeah, May 1998, I got exposed to ECW on pay-per-view, WrestlePalooza 98. The minute I saw it, snap of a finger, I was hooked. I was hooked with the ECW product. I was a huge fan of it, huge mark of it. I was such a fan. I mean, after, and then in 99, I started getting every single one of their pay-per-views until they went under. I think I ordered like at least 10 or 11 straight ECW pay-per-views in a row before they went out of business. So yeah, from like March 99 until January 2001, I got all their pay-per-views and paid for them. So ECW, the product, this is what was good about it. And is what good Paul Heyman did for ECW. And the good he did as an owner. The product, ECW, felt real. It felt different. It was not PG like WWF, WCW. Felt a lot different, even in 98. You had the Attitude Era going strong, and WCW was doing good stuff. Even when I first saw ECW, I was like, this cannot be predetermined. This is not fake. This looks as real as it gets. It just felt real to me. They did not insult the fans' intelligence also, like WCW and WWF did. So the product just felt really real in the presentation of it. And that's probably thanks to Paul Heyman and the talent. So also, it was not PG. It was a revolution. It was a wrestling revolution. That was what was really good about a lot of stuff Paul Heyman did in ECW. This is all the good he did, in my opinion. They started wrestling revolution. They brought life, in my opinion, they brought life to the wrestling business. In wrestling industry, ECW brought life to it. They set it on fire. It was revolutionary, in my opinion. Also, the violence, the blood, and the product was just cool. In my opinion, it was a cool product. The promos, Paul Heyman directing the talent, how to cut a promo, what to say, how he directed them. Their promos in ECW, the promos were just genius. And I'm sure Paul Heyman had a lot to do with them. Just great, realistic sounding promos. Also, what was great is ECW had a lot of hot women as managers, like Francine, Dawn Marie. Can't think of anybody else. 96 had Missy Hyatt, but I didn't watch it in 96. I didn't see 96 ECW till I was way older, until I got exposed to it. So, anyways, there was hot women. Beulah was hot. Kimona was hot. Who else? Can't think of any others. Mostly Dawn Marie and Francine. They were hot. They were smoking. Also, you had cat fights. I thought that was great for the times. Joey Styles screaming, "Cat fight! Cat fight!" That was good stuff. Also, Paul Heyman pushed and helped a lot of great talent. Talent that was not utilized or pushed or used by WWF or signed by WCW. He got the best out of all the talent he had. He pushed them to the moon. Guys like Jerry Lynn, who was in WCW under a mask. What a waste of talent. Pushed guys like Taz, made him a unstoppable suplex machine character. And ECW didn't have many characters. Most of the guys were their real life, their real self. Just turned up a little bit. So all their wrestlers, basically, I don't want to call them characters, because in ECW they were wrestlers. And all their wrestlers basically felt real and were realistic to the fan base. They did not seem fake and phony and have stupid, dumbass gimmicks that fans hated. So he pushed guys like Taz, RVD. The fans loved Paul Heyman. That was also a good thing. Fans just loved Paul Heyman. The ECW fan base loved Paul Heyman. As I said earlier, he never lied to the fans, but he lied to the wrestlers sometimes. He pushed, as I said, Paul Heyman could do nothing wrong by the fans. In the fans' eyes, he pushed guys like Sabu, which he looked a lot different. The guy had scars all over his body from wrestling in Japan and FMW in barbed wire matches. Pushed guys like Shane Douglas and pushed him to the moon. He was his top heel for years. And Shane Douglas was a great heel in ECW. The guy at his best run of his career, in my opinion, in ECW. Pushed younger talent and helped younger talent like Justin Credible, made him a big star. Pushed Jazz, pushed just guys like the Pitbulls, the Eliminators, Spike Dudley, the Dudley Boys, El Snow, Chris Benoit, Public Enemy, Lucha Libre coming to the United States for the first time. Lucha Libre started in ECW in the United States. Conan actually brought him to Paul Heyman, and because Paul Heyman wanted to use him on his show. And the Luchadors, Rey Mysterio, Juventud, Psychosis, they got over huge in ECW. So guys like Al Snow, Tommy Dreamer, Raven, Chris Jericho even got over and had a big push in ECW. That's all thanks to Paul Heyman. That they all got good spots and good pushes. Eddie Guerrero was there. He had great matches with Two Coat Scorpio and Dean Malenko. Eddie Guerrero was a former ECW TV champ. So what else was really good under Paul Heyman was ECW used real life music. That was a big plus. That was awesome, in my opinion. I know they stole it, and they weren't supposed to use it, but so what? They used it, and it was great. I'm really glad the network does not play the original entrance themes of ECW talents on their pay-per-views or TV, but I still have a lot of DVDs from original videotapes that I recorded of ECW pay-per-views and stuff. I still have a lot of original ECW pay-per-views and TV where the real music is still on there. So I'm glad I have all those DVDs of the real music still on the shows. Obviously, on the network, WWE Network, they don't want to pay for all the real life music. So they dub over it. They edit it and cut it out. They don't play Enter Sandman, which is a shame, but I guess Metallica wants $1 million if you play Enter Sandman. So this was what else was really good. I mean, Tommy Dreamer Raven feud, that was great. And that was under Paul Heyman. Remember who Raven was. The guy came from the WWF. The guy was a manager, Johnny Polo. Johnny Polo became Raven. And yeah, I'm sure Raven had a ton to do with it and starting that character, but Paul Heyman really helped the Raven character too. I mean, Paul Heyman and Raven's minds together just, I'm sure, exploded in creativity for the Raven gimmick and character and what they could do with it. So these were the really, what else was good under Paul Heyman? They threw down the NWA title, Shane Douglas. Nobody else, only Paul Heyman and Shane Douglas knew they were going to do it. They threw down the NWA World title, created the ECW World title. That was a great moment. That was a big moment in wrestling. It was in August of '94 where Shane Douglas threw down the NWA title and started and created the ECW World title. So this is what else was really good. The really good years of ECW under Paul Heyman, 1994, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000 were really good years. They did some really good stuff. Good storylines and good matches and a lot of blood and guts and just entertaining shit all those years I mentioned. So, now to more good that Paul Heyman did. I'm trying to make sure I don't leave anything out of what I wrote down here. So, yeah. More good that under Paul Heyman. The titles in ECW meant something. The world title, the TV title, the tag team titles always meant something. And they only had 3 belts. And that's a good thing. Less belts is better. I prefer 3 to 4 titles, not over 5 or 6. That's ridiculous to have 5 or 6 titles in your company. I get why WWE does it because they have NXT, NXT UK, 205 Live, but I don't like it. WWE, I will always think, has too many titles. But ECW, the titles matter, and they had the perfect amount of titles. 3 titles for their entire existence. So that was really good. Paul Heyman hiring Joey Styles. The only guy to call pay-per-views by himself for a really long time, and Joey Styles worked by himself as a really good play-by-play guy for years. I'm sure Paul Heyman was in his ear and made him better. Also, just Paul Heyman, this is more good. The last of the good. The guy was really good at promoting ECW, promoting his company. The guy was a promoting marketing genius. How he marketed ECW to the fan base. The guy was a genius at how he marketed and promoted ECW. If you watch the Rise and Fall of ECW DVD, Paul Heyman said the fans, when the first pay-per-view, Barely Legal, got thrown off pay-per-view before the start date. Well, the fans cared so much. And Paul Heyman, how he presented ECW, the fans cared so much. They emailed and they called the pay-per-view company. And they demanded that you put Barely Legal on pay-per-view. And Barely Legal got put on pay-per-view because of the fan base. So Paul Heyman, the guy was really good at promoting and pushing the product ECW. So now let's get to Eric Bischoff, Eazy-E, who started, I believe, running WCW, became the president, I think, in 93. I don't know the date or the month. Sometime in 93, I think. Maybe, I don't know, maybe right after Bill Watts. Sometime in 93, Bischoff was hired to run things. Some say maybe that's why JR left WCW, because he was supposed to be vice president, but he didn't get hired. So he's pissed and left. I don't know if that's true, but I heard that. So this is some of the really bad that Bischoff did when he was, this is some of the bad Bischoff did when he was running WCW. Really bad is, this was not a good move at the time. I don't blame Bischoff for wanting to sign him, but it was a bad move because it did not work. Signing Bret Hart did not work. Bret, I don't think, cared. I think Bret was depressed. I don't think Bret even wanted to be there, to be honest. He probably wishes he's back in WWF. And Bischoff says he tried and tried to push Bret Hart, but Bret Hart would always turn down his ideas. And Bischoff always says Bret seemed like he didn't care to even be there and always seemed depressed. That was just a bad move, signing Bret Hart. Because they didn't know how to book Bischoff in WCW. They didn't know how to book Bret Hart. Also bad, starting WCW Thunder. That was a bad move, bad idea. Thunder in the beginning was 3 hours. WCW Thunder in the beginning was like 3 hours. I think in January 98 is 3 hours, and a couple more episodes were even 3 hours in 98. That is bad. A wrestling show, if it's not a pay-per-view, no wrestling show should be 3 fucking hours. So starting WCW Thunder was a bad move. I know the network, Turner Networks or Ted Turner or the network wanted another wrestling show. And I guess Bischoff could not say no, so he agreed to it, but he should have said no. Yeah, Thunder was good for putting talent that could not get on Nitro on the show, but Thunder was a bad move. It was kind of a downfall for WCW. So Nitros, this is more bad when Nitro started being 3 hours. I believe it started in 98 or the end of 97. They started having some Nitros be 3 fucking hours long. That was a really bad move. I think it lasted until like sometime in 99. They were still doing 3-hour Nitros. Also, Bischoff, the guy hired too much talent. WCW had way too much talent. They were paying him too much. And a lot of them weren't even working, weren't doing nothing, and they were still getting paid too much. That was a downfall of WCW, bringing in way too much talent. And Bischoff, you're to blame for that. Also, in 1999, Bischoff started doing commentary again. Nobody wanted to hear that or see it. It was bad. Bischoff in 99 on commentary on Nitro. Maybe even on Thunders. I haven't watched any 99 Thunders yet on the network. I'm still at November 98 Thunders. So 99 Bischoff doing commentary was bad. He shouldn't have went back to commentary. Also, the hardcore division I think it was under Bischoff still. Starting the hardcore division was bad. Really bad idea. Especially in 1999. It was just bad. Remember the Junkyard Battle Royal? Or Junkyard Fight at Bash at the Beach in 99? That was not good. Someone, I think Brian Knobbs, broke his arm in it. Sandman broke his leg in it. It was not good. And also, in 99, in the end of 98 and 99, WCW and Bischoff started hiring too many former ECW guys for no reason. I don't know why they were signed, but they were. Bam Bam Bigelow was the only one that really was worth signing. I'm sorry, but WCW should have not signed the Sandman or Mikey Whipwreck. They shouldn't have. They also signed, she managed the Sandman in WCW when he's Hardcore Hack. They also signed Chastity. She was in ECW in 97, 98. And they signed her to be a manager. I don't know why. But WCW and Bischoff or somebody got Chastity hired. Not a bad looking woman. Pretty attractive woman. I mean, I thought she looked good from March 99 until the summer. And then she was gone. Probably was fired or released. I don't know. But Chastity, WCW, and Bischoff shouldn't have hired her. I know how ECW found her. The boys got her hired because I believe she's a stripper or hired at bachelor parties and she could shoot a golf ball out of her you-know-what. That's what I heard Chastity used to do at parties if you paid her enough. Nothing against Chastity. I hope she's doing well. So, just shouldn't have signed ECW guys in 99. You didn't need them. And it was like ripping off, I'm sorry, it was a ECW ripoff, Bischoff. The hardcore division in signing ECW guys was just WCW looking like a cheap man's ECW ripoff. And the hardcore matches were not good. Not as good as in ECW. So that, and also more bad. Bischoff, you let your ego go out of control. I mean, not in the beginning, not in 96, but probably in 97, 98, really, your ego's out of control. And you thought, no matter what WCW did, you thought you were going to stay number one forever. Bischoff, even in a meeting, I mean, the guy's ego is so out of control in a meeting, he said to the talent, oh yeah, Vince McMahon and WWF, I'm putting them out of business. They'll be out of business very soon. That's a tremendous ego to say that and think that. Yes, Bischoff, you won for 83 weeks in a row. But again, that just fed your ego to think you could do no wrong. So you got too cocky. You were challenging Vince McMahon on Nitro. You were saying it's good to be king. It's good to be number one. Vince, bite me. Challenging Vince to a pay-per-view match. That was ridiculous. I mean, it was funny. I thought it was funny, but I knew it was really dumb. And I mean, some fans probably bought the pay-per-view thinking Vince was actually going to show up and that Bischoff would pay him to show up. So that's kind of lying to your fans and conning them. That was really a bad move. When Bischoff challenged Vince McMahon to a match, to a fight at Slamboree 98. That was stupid. And it was a bad move, Bischoff. And you were way too cocky in May 98. And your ego was probably out of control. You even held a meeting, I believe in 1999 in August. You held a meeting backstage with talent. This is what I heard. And Bischoff says to all the talent, that was there, he goes, if anybody wants to quit, you can leave and quit right now and get out of here. If you aren't happy with the company or your spot. One guy that actually got up and left was Raven. And Raven, good for him, he quit and went back to ECW and got a huge pop. I hope he's paid good. Because at least in WCW, Raven was probably making good money. But the guy, Raven, was so goddamn unhappy in ECW. I mean, WCW, Raven was so unhappy. The guy quit and left a lot of money on the table to go back to ECW. Jericho was unhappy. He didn't want to stay there. He didn't want to re-sign. He thought, and he knew Bischoff was fucking up as a boss. And Jericho could see the writing on the wall that WCW was going down, 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 and nobody could stop the free fall and train wreck that was WCW. Especially towards the end of 98. So Jericho wanted out. Raven left. The Big Show, the Giant, he didn't want to stay. He left too. He saw the writing on the wall. So again, then Bischoff thinking about the WWF, saying it to his talent that I'm putting them out of business. Really dumb and just stupid. That was bad. So now let's get to some of the good that Eric Bischoff did. Here's some of the good. And he did a lot good for WCW. When Bischoff took over running WCW 93, 94, 95, probably 96. I think they finally started making a profit in 95 because Bischoff was running things. So the good about Bischoff and the just really good stuff he did for wrestling in the wrestling business is going live on Monday nights, head-to-head with Raw, the debut of and starting WCW Monday Nitro Bischoff decided we needed to be live against a taped WWF Raw. That was a great idea. That was revolutionary. To be live wrestling on Monday nights in primetime. So again, that was really revolutionary. And Bischoff, I don't know if he had it written down and even planned to bring it up, but in a meeting with Ted Turner, Ted Turner asked Bischoff, I can't do a really good Ted Turner impersonation, but here it is. He said, Eric, what do we need to do to go to head? I can't even do Ted Turner. He said, what do we need to do, WCW? What do we need to do to go head to head and compete with WWF? And then Bischoff, I think, said back to Ted, he said, they're on Monday nights, and we should be on Monday nights, or we should be head to head with them. And then Ted Turner says to Bischoff, or he said the guy that ran TNT or something, Ted Turner says to him, give Eric two hours on Monday nights live. So Ted Turner really started it all. The guy was pretty smart to do that. But I think Bischoff came up with it, the 2 hours live, because Raw was taped. And Ted Turner, good for him. The guy agreed to it. So live on Monday nights, that was revolutionary. Also, the debuts of former WWF talents that were big stars that made a big impact in WCW. Signing guys like the Macho Man Randy Savage. He made a big impact. And a lot of fans, I'm sure, went over to watch WCW because they wanted to see what the Macho Man would do. The Macho Man was good in WCW. He was good in 95, 96, 97. The guy did good shit. So he signed Scott Hall, Kevin Nash in 96. That was huge signing. Huge signings that made WCW number one. Also, the signing of Hulk Hogan in 94 really, really helped. Bischoff knew he had to try to get Hulk Hogan, but I'm not going to credit Bischoff did sign Hogan. I guess you could argue Ted Turner did because he paid him, but Bischoff, I guess, got the contract to Hogan or whatever. So you could say Bischoff signed him and Bischoff talked to him. And I don't think Bischoff really had to. Bischoff just gave Hogan whatever he wanted, in my opinion. Gave him any amount of money he wanted. Hogan probably wrote down a number, give me $10 million a year. I believe that's what Hogan was paid in WCW. So Hogan probably just wrote down, give me $10 million a year and I'll come to WCW. Bischoff probably agreed and said, done. You got a deal right away just to get Hogan. But Bischoff, I don't think deserves all the credit. I think Ric Flair is the guy that really got Hogan signed. Ric Flair talked to Hogan a lot to come to WCW and got him to have a meeting with Bischoff. So Ric Flair deserves a credit for getting Hogan signed. Not just Bischoff. Other guys he signed. As I said, Macho Man, Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash. He also signed, and this was big. It was in 94 and 93, but it was still big. He signed Mean Gene Okerlund, and WCW really needed him. And he signed Bobby the Brain Heenan to do commentary. Those were huge signings, really big signings. And that was a good thing that Bischoff did. Also, he gave away spoilers, which I thought was hilarious. A lot of fans were probably pissed. I was a hardcore WWF guy, always have been. I wasn't pissed. I thought it was hilarious. Bischoff gave away the taped Monday Night Raw taped spoilers. I still think it's hilarious. He gave them away on a live Nitro. He gave away the results of Raw and then said, okay, now that I'm done reading the results, let's get back to Monday Nitro Live. That's hilarious. So what else good did Bischoff do? He got the Cruiserweight division started and signed off on bringing in a ton of Cruiserweights, Luchadors, and High Flyers, and Cruiserweights. That was a great idea. The Cruiserweight division under Bischoff. The Nitro Girls. That was a great idea in my opinion. And he pushed a lot of talent under Bischoff. And guys like Diamond Dallas Page were pushed. Goldberg was skyrocketed as the top babyface of the company. Booker T was pushed really good in 98. 98 when Bischoff was still there. Jericho, I thought, was pushed pretty good in 98 when he was there, when Bischoff was there. So that's a lot of good that Bischoff did. The NWO. The NWO idea came from Eric Bischoff. Bischoff came up with the name. I don't know if he stole it from New Japan or not. Who cares? It was his idea. The NWO idea was Eric Bischoff's idea. He knew Hall and Nash were going to be part of the New World Order coming in. Bischoff obviously knew that a lot of fans were going to think these are WWF guys invading. They're not even a part of WCW. This is like a New World Order. So Hall and Nash, I believe, were always going to be a part of it. But Bischoff wanted Sting. Bischoff wanted Sting to be the third man. I don't think that would have worked. It was a lot better with Hogan because it was so shocking that Hogan turned heel. The ultimate babyface finally turned heel. So then Bischoff talking to Hogan, talking him into turning heel, and it was great. Great idea, the NWO. It didn't last long. NWO only had a good run for a year and a half until probably the spring of 98. The NWO was kind of dead. But I had a good run in 96 and 97. So signing Lex Luger. That was shocking. I'm not a fan of Lex Luger. Never have been. But signing Lex Luger was a really good idea because the guy jumped ship and debuted on the first ever Nitro. So again, under Bischoff, the guy changed WCW for the better. They made a profit for the first time in 93, 94, 95. They started finally making a profit under Eric Bischoff. Now, who's better? Who is better between Eric Bischoff, Paul Heyman? This hurts me a little bit to say, but who's better is Bischoff. Eric Bischoff wins. This episode of Who's Better, Bischoff wins because I'm still pissed that ECW is out of business. I miss ECW, and Paul Heyman, ECW should still be going, but it's your fault. They're not. So I am blaming you for that. That's why Bischoff wins, because ECW's dead. And I know WCW died, but that's not Bischoff's fault at all. It wasn't his fault. I'm still pissed at Paul Heyman that ECW's not around. But that's not why Bischoff wins. Bischoff wins because the guy started wrestling on Monday nights going live. And the guy defeated WWF for 83 weeks. And he made WCW a profit. And he brought in guys like Hogan, Savage, Piper. That were great signings. He made WCW #1 for about 2 years. About 2 years, they were #1. I'd say they were #1 from like March 96 until March 98, in my opinion. I still love what WWF did, but in the Attitude Era in 97, when WWF was getting their ass kicked by Nitro and Raw was getting basically spanked, I thought Raw was better a lot. A better show than Nitro, but Nitro won. Nitro won for 83 weeks, and Bischoff, running WCW, the guy made WCW the #1 company. And I never thought that happened. So Bischoff wins this episode of Who's Better between Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman. I had a lot to say, both good and bad, for Bischoff and Heyman. I went almost an hour. I'll go as long as I want because it's my show. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Who's Better between Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman. My next show on my channel will be my NXT TakeOver 25 review. Bye for now.